Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. I've got a lot to talk about going on in the Big Ten Power Rankings basketball episode. It's been a while, but I'm back here with Kent, here to talk about our power rankings, the basketball, everything else. Kent, how you doing?
Could not be better. Literally could not be better. I've been waiting for this day. It's been 3 weeks, man. We took 2 weeks off, and I'm so happy to be back and talking some Big Ten basketball, man. I missed you. How was your holiday? Was it
It
good?
was good, man. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, we had Christmas and had a good time with, the presents and everything else. So it was fun. And then the new year happened. My kids didn't stay up for that. They're too little, but overall it was a good time. How about you?
Great. Lots of travel. Went back up north. I don't like the traveling part. Like as soon before, like pulling out of my driveway, I was like, I'm ready to be home already, and I
Right.
hadn't even left. We were gone for like 8 days, but got a little sick towards the end. You could probably hear it in my voice. I didn't realize how sick I was until I was coaching my kids Saturday. And I'm like trying to yell at second graders to get back on defense, and they couldn't hear me because my voice was like completely gone. But I'm still ready to talk, though. I'm still ready to talk hoops, though. I can't wait.
You sound so mean. You're yelling at second graders, man.
You have to, because like they don't remember anything at all. So like you have to be like, get back, get back, get back. Like it's one of the rules in their league too that you can't like play defense in the front court. Otherwise, the whole game would just be like jump
Right.
balls and turnovers. So like you have to get back on defense like past half court. So it's like, don't forget, get back. They have the ball. Get back, get back, get back.
Right. Right. Oh man, yeah. It feels like probably Chris Collins felt like he was guarding some second graders, or no, he was coaching some second graders in their games. So that's a good transition for us to get into the basketball side of it all. We do have John and Philip here with us. We appreciate
Let's
them. John
go.
says, "Who knew that playing one big man would be beneficial for IU?" Also, shout out to Umar Ballo playing the last 5 minutes of the second half. I believe that was against Penn State with 4 fouls and still being dominant. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we do it yet because I think teams are still adjusting, but might need to have a conversation at some point if Indiana is better without Malik Renew, right?
Yeah, like towards the tail end of that game, I know he had like one play where I think they were up by two and he drew a foul, and that kind of what is what like extended the game. So like he's still very important, I think, to have on the court, but when the spacing feels better without him, I don't know. It's tough for Coach Woodson, and I feel like his job is already tough, or at least he makes it look tough sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, obviously it's a much bigger conversation than this, but I think it's interesting with how Woodson has not really been able to have, great guards on his team. You take out a big man and you leave basically the entire paint area for Umar Ballo just kind of to exist and do whatever he wants. And then you surround him with not guards, because obviously Mackenzie Mbako is not a guard, but like more guard, play around the perimeter. And you're kind of like, oh, wow, if we just leave Umar Ballo down there by himself, like he does very well and he can play 30 plus minutes a game now. Now, I don't know how long it's going to keep up for, but if he can play 30
Dude,
plus minutes a game, he's doing pretty well down there.
I feel like I have to make a correction already. I think it actually might have been Mbako on that last play that I was just talking about. I can't remember anymore.
Oh,
So
yeah, I don't
much
know. There's so many
basketball.
plays.
So much
There's so
basketball.
many
And like
plays.
with the just being conference games now, it feels like you have to be even more locked in to watch all of them. So it's all kind of mixing together. But yeah, either way, there was a play at the end where someone made some free throws. I think it was Mbako now that you say that though.
Yeah. I can't remember either, so don't blame yourself too much. Philip says Illinois is taking the permanent number one spot in the Big Ten this
Permanent?
year. Listen, people thought I was premature a couple weeks ago saying Illinois was the number one, but I was like, look, there's no like for sure team right now. So if I'm projecting for 1 week, that's fine. But this is what I see. Illinois is playing the best basketball in the Big Ten, I think.
Yeah, I don't know about permanent. It might be though. Like I think they're the best team right now, for sure. The Oregon game was insane to me because I think really highly of Oregon. And for Illinois to go out there and win by that much, I think it was a record, right? We were kind of texting about that, a record
Mm-hmm.
for a top 10 win on the road. So for them to go out there and do that, it's like, well, if they can do that at Oregon, they can do it anywhere.
Right.
So, yeah, maybe it is permanent. I'm not sure. We'll see. And you're right. You were ahead of the curve on this because when you had him at number one, was it last week or last
Two
two
weeks
weeks
ago.
now?
It was
Last two
before
weeks. Okay.
Christmas.
I was like, man, I don't know. I really like Illinois. I just don't know if they're ready for number one yet, but for sure now, for sure after this last week, 100% best team right now.
Yeah, I think they're permanently like in the as long as they don't have a stupid loss like Maryland, which we'll get to Maryland, but as long as they don't have a stupid loss like Maryland, they should be in the top 5 for the rest of the season. They should remain there. I don't know if they'll be in the top 5 standings because the Big Ten is so crazy the way it works out, but with
Yeah.
as much parity as there is in the conference, I can't imagine Illinois would get outside of the top 5.
I don't think so either. But you mentioned that word parody. I was thinking about that like 2 hours ago before obviously we came on here, but these power rankings are going to be mixed up so much this year. Like it's already happened a lot and it was really tough with the non-conference games, but now with like somebody winning on the road or somebody like always winning home games like Nebraska for example, it's like it's going to be mixed up a lot trying to get these teams like in the correct order based on what's going to happen throughout the season. It's going to be a super fun season the rest of the year.
It really is. It really is. I think if there is an elite team in the Big Ten, it's Illinois. I don't think anybody else is. I think Michigan State has the opportunity to, but I don't think they have an elite playmaker on their team to be that. And I say that with all respect to their players because I think their players are playing really good right now. But yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Let's go through a few more comments and then we'll see. John says, "Hello, JR. I see you're part of the sun today. Listen, I even scooted over. You don't want to see what it looked like when I first turned on the camera. I was like, yikes." So, it's a combination of my window being where it's at and all the snow and the sun coming off the snow. It's not a good combo.
Did you get a lot? How much snow did you get?
We got over a foot, I believe.
Oh my gosh. We got like a
Yeah,
light dusting and my kids were like, "We're not going to school, are we?" And I was like, "Yes, you are."
yeah. Get out of my house. Go to school.
Yeah.
Philip says, "Jr. You have Maryland. Whoops, you have Maryland too high. They will continue to Willard. It's become a verb for underachieving at this point. I mean, like I've been struggling with Maryland all season. I really wanted to do what you did, Kent, and just throw them in the bottom 4 and just be like, forget you, get down there. Like you're starting from square one now. But I don't know if I did that, I would just be even more depressed about Ohio State than I already am about the team. They got my hopes up, and then they played Michigan State at home, and that was awful. But I don't know. Like I don't move teams up super high for big wins, so I feel like I can't move them super far down for huge losses. But I can definitely see why you moved them down so far, kid.
I mean, it's Washington, that's why.
Yeah.
It's like nobody should lose to them in this conference. I don't care if it's home or away. You got to go out and beat Washington. You have to. That's not okay with me. So that's why I dropped them so far. But I will say, I posted this about 3 hours ago on Twitter, and that was the biggest pushback I've gotten so far is that Maryland was too low and that I had them below Ohio State after they blew Ohio State out. But I was like, that was a while ago. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. The Washington thing kind of washes it all away, if you will.
There you go. Yeah, washed it away. I like that. All right, well, let's just talk about the power rankings. Good discourse from. Oh, here we go. Philip gave us the stat: largest margin of victory on the road versus an AP top 10 team, 109 to 77. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Crazy.
Okay, we will get to comments and stuff like that as we go, guys. But let's start at the top because we already started talking about them. Illinois, Michigan State. Do you see an argument for Michigan State to be above Illinois, or are you just kind of like, there's no way Illinois after that Oregon performance, they have to be number one?
I mean, I could see a Michigan State fan like maybe going win for win and like kind of going through their schedule and saying maybe we have some better wins, but it's like you said, it's arguable though. If you have watched both of these teams at this point, you it would be really hard to argue that, hey, I think Illinois is a worse team than Michigan State. I think Michigan State could beat them right now. So I think that's where the conversation ends because just from the eye test for me, I think Illinois is better. So it would have to be like pulling up some stats that only favor Michigan State or some wins that might slightly edge out some of the wins that Illinois has. But Illinois has good wins too. So it's really tough. I'd say if anyone wanted to argue for Michigan State to be number one, you'd have a tough time doing so.
Yeah, I agree. I think Illinois, the win over Oregon really just supplants them there, and also the very close game with Tennessee. I mean, that game I know it was at home, but really there's nobody else that has it there. And yeah, Philip's right. Michigan State's best win, UNC, they barely beat Notre Dame. I mean, yeah, they don't have that top tier win. They are 3-0 in
Didn't
the
they
Big
have some
Ten,
good wins
so
out in Maui though? Like, didn't they beat like they beat Memphis? Is that a good win?
I mean,
Do you like that win yourself personally?
I don't. I mean, I think it's a quad one win, but I don't think it's near blowing out Oregon on the road. Do
No.
you?
Okay, so at Ohio State, that's to me a decent win. I'm not, by the way, I'm not arguing that Michigan State has better wins than Illinois at all. I'm just
You're trying
saying,
to
like,
find a better win than North Carolina.
yeah, I think that at Ohio State might be. And then, oh, wait, they lost that Memphis game. What am I talking about?
As I say, I don't remember them beating Memphis.
I'm an
Their
idiot.
quad one wins right now are North Carolina and Ohio State. Those are their quad one wins.
Hmm.
North
Yeah,
Carolina
they don't.
43rd in net right now, and Ohio State is 28th. Outside of that, they beat Nebraska, but that was also at home. Minnesota, um,
Colorado.
Colorado.
Yeah.
They played Kansas close for a little bit, and then Kansas pulled away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they really don't. I mean, they don't play anybody for a few weeks. They have Washington, then Northwestern, or at Northwestern,
Hey,
which
hey,
at
hey, hey,
Northwestern is
hey,
hard to
careful
play.
what you say.
Penn State. Penn State has shown they have a high ceiling, but they also lost to Indiana, so their floor is getting lower. And then they play Illinois. So I mean, they could win 3 games straight and then play Illinois.
That'd be fun. And if they do that, I feel like it's going to be the same as far as for our power rankings. I feel like it'll stay the same. Like as long as they don't slip
Yeah,
up in one of those next 3 games, I feel like they'll stay at number 2.
I mean, if Illinois loses to any of these 3 teams, are you putting them below Michigan State, Penn State, USC, at Indiana?
If they lose to USC, I would consider it because I don't think USC is very good.
Yeah, if they lose to USC, I would probably put them below because USC is not good.
Yeah,
Um,
but the other
but
two, I wouldn't consider it like a horrible loss. Like, is it at Penn State?
no,
I
it's
should
home
probably
against
pull
Penn
some
State.
schedules up.
It's home against Penn State.
Yeah, so
That would technically be a quad 2 game.
well, first of all, I'd be really surprised if they lost that game. But
Right.
secondly, if they did, I think Penn State's a really good team too. So I don't think I would dock them that much for that loss.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I think there's really not much else to get to there. I think more of the interesting conversation is you having Purdue at 3, Michigan at 4. I put Michigan at third. I was a bit reluctant earlier in the week, and then I just started looking at it all, and I said Michigan's playing a really good brand of basketball right now, and their losses have all been close. I do have concerns about the turnovers, and I do have concerns about them blowing leads, but at the end of the day, like Michigan's a really good team this season, and Dusty May's done a really good job with them. I think the Purdue win over Northwestern was impressive, but Northwestern has also lost a lot of games so far this season, albeit some of them bullcrap. But like I can't put Purdue way up there for blowing out Northwestern at home like I can Illinois blowing out Oregon on the road.
Yeah. I think when I originally started doing it, I had Michigan third and then Purdue fourth. And
Okay.
then I always go back to the two things that I put in the tweet every week, like who I think would win on a neutral court and then game results. And honestly, this is probably one of the first times I've put a team ahead of somebody that I think would win on a neutral court. So, like, I think Michigan's better. I think at a neutral tonight, if they played Purdue, I think Michigan would win the game. But going through the actual game results, though, I think that Purdue has a better argument for they've had a better season so far. So that's what made me put Purdue in front of Michigan. Do you think that I'm wrong about that?
I'll have to look at the schedule again, but I mean, Purdue does obviously have some good wins. They beat Maryland, they beat Alabama. The Ole
Alabama.
Miss win was pretty good, but like, correct me if I'm wrong. All of those, no, the Ole Miss one was neutral, but those other ones were at home. Like on the road and in neutral sites, Purdue struggled this season. They got blown out by Marquette. They got blown out by Penn State. Texas A&M beat them on a neutral floor, and then they got blown out by Auburn on a neutral floor. So like, I mean, if we're gonna have the conversation with Michigan State and say like who is their top tier win, obviously it's Alabama. But like other than that at home, like where else is the top tier win? Because we just saw Maryland lose to Washington, and I know that stretch that they had of Ole Miss, Penn State, Maryland, Texas A&M, and Auburn was deadly. But like I don't know, I think Michigan's resume is actually probably more impressive in my mind. They haven't played more quad one teams, but they beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin. They take down Xavier. TCU isn't a great team, but they were able to beat them earlier in the season when they still weren't having a great time with trying to trying to figure out their identity. And then they played Arkansas and Oklahoma close, who Oklahoma's, I think they've lost some games lately, so I don't know if they've been as good as maybe people thought. No, they lost to Alabama, but that was also at Alabama. They're undefeated outside of that. So, like, I don't know. I feel like Michigan's resume is a little bit more impressive. Is that wrong?
I don't know.
Because they haven't been blown out. They haven't been blown out by anybody.
I guess if that's what like your main criteria is, I guess then yeah, Purdue's been blown out, Michigan hasn't. So yeah, based on that, but I would look at the Alabama game, and there's not two wins that I think you could put together for Michigan that's are better than, like, even if you combine them, are better than the Alabama win for Purdue, even if it's at home. And then they also have the Ole Miss win too. So I think that it kind of just depends on what you're looking for. I mean, what do the net ratings say? I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it. Is Purdue higher? I think Michigan is higher in that right now. But that's,
In
again, that is
in
based on
net,
kind of,
Purdue is 26th and Michigan is 13th.
so, and I think that's because of what you just said, because Purdue has been blown out a couple times, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. It kind of just depends on what you're looking for. Me personally, I just think that the Alabama win was so impressive that it was enough for me to say that's a better win than anything Michigan has. So I'm going to bump them ahead of Michigan at this time. And there's enough time throughout the season, and they're going to play eventually, that we'll figure out which team is actually better. I think that would be like one of the best games. I know people were talking yesterday about like how Northwestern versus Purdue was going to be a good game yesterday, or at least I saw some people talking about it. I follow a lot of Northwestern people though. But I think that Michigan versus Purdue, like, if I could have one game right now, I think that's the game I would want to watch. That one, and then Illinois and Michigan State. Like, basically what I have right in order, 1 versus 2 and 3 versus 4 would be really fun games to watch. And then even down to the next one, 5 versus 6, we already saw that was a great game. It was a 2-point game, UCLA versus Oregon. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is get them in order of like what I think would be great games, and I think that those ones would be.
Yeah, no, I mean that's obviously they're going to be great games. Purdue versus Michigan is going to happen on January 24th later this month, so we are going to have to wait for that one for a little bit. But Purdue coming up is going to play at Rutgers, Nebraska, and then at Washington, which hopefully Dylan Harper is back for that game. I really want to see Dylan Harper and Braden Smith face off. I think he was just sick, is what they announced. I was at that Indiana game when they played Rutgers, and when I didn't see Dylan Harper on the floor, I was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
I know.
I was like,
That
okay, I
was
get to see
insane.
Ace Bailey tonight. I'm excited about that, but I was like, and Ace Bailey almost went for 40.
Yeah.
He probably would have if that point guard for Rutgers would have gave him the ball there at the end. Which I don't know. Did you see that?
No, I missed the end of it.
Okay, so Rutgers, the shot clock is gone, and Indiana goes down the floor, and they're just standing at the top of the key or top of the half court to just kind of dribble out the clock. Rutgers fouls with 30 seconds left, and it
Okay.
was like, hold on, like what's going on here? Why did you foul there? And so Rutgers gets the ball and they go down the court, and Ace Bailey's like, give me the ball. I have 39 points. I'm gonna get 40, and he runs up to the hand him the ball, but he doesn't hand him the ball because the Indiana team just guards Ace Bailey. He doesn't hand him the ball, and he just drives to the basket and gets a layup, an open layup, and it was like, what in the world was that? I don't know. Maybe I'm making nothing out of something, but it was weird, or something
That
out of
is
nothing, but it
strange.
was weird.
That's strange. But
So,
they ended up scoring then, right?
well, yeah, Rutgers did, but it wasn't Ace Bailey,
Oh,
so he had 39 in the game. He didn't have 40.
gotcha.
Yeah, it was weird. So, um,
Still a
Well,
really
yes,
impressive
and John's
performance by
right.
him,
Ace would
though.
have had 40 if he didn't go 3 for 8 from the line. That is correct. He did have a bad free throw shooting night. So,
I think
all
that
right.
Rutgers, when we're looking at our, like, especially my power rankings, because I have them, well, I guess you have them pretty low too, still has the potential to like climb the most, though. Like, once those two guys start playing together, I feel like we've been talking about it since the summertime, but like, if they can put things together, I feel like they can still win a lot of games in this conference. No?
Nah, I
You're
don't think
done
so.
believing?
No, I don't think
Did you
so.
ever
Yeah,
believe?
I don't think they have enough players around him. I think Jeremiah Williams is a good player. I think he was a nice piece, but I mean, I don't think they have a big man. I don't think they have a rim protector. I don't think they have good enough perimeter defense. I mean, like Indiana's guards smoked them. Like they, and I'm not. I mean, everybody knows Indiana's guards, kind of get joked about and stuff. And they were give them credit; they were better in that game. Miles Rice had a really good one, but yeah, it was.
Like, okay, for example, because we have it. I hate you, Sonny.
Thanks, Sonny. Miss you
Um,
too.
because we both have Iowa ahead of Rutgers right now, right? So, like, would you be surprised at all if Rutgers went to Iowa and won that game? I don't even
No.
know if they play at Iowa.
Yeah,
They
not
don't.
if they go to Iowa because we just saw Wisconsin hit a record number of 3-pointers
That's what
against
I'm
Iowa.
saying. Like, so, like a team like Iowa that doesn't play great defense with two against two really good scores, they actually play at Rutgers. So, like, I feel like they could win that game. I feel like they could surprise. They could go to Northwestern and get a win. That's who they play in a couple weeks. Trying to look at what they got coming up. Like, they're at home against Wisconsin. Would you be surprised if Rutgers wins that game tonight?
At home against Wisconsin tonight.
That's on tonight. That's in a
I'm.
couple of hours. We get to watch that game. Let's
I
make a
mean,
pick right now.
I don't think I would be surprised at any win at home for Rutgers, just because Rutgers at home is such a good environment. I would probably be shocked if they lost to Illinois at home because I just think Illinois has the NBA talent to combat a Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. Um, but I don't think I'd be surprised if they beat anybody at home. I wouldn't pick them to beat everybody at home, but I wouldn't be surprised by it.
Their next three games are at home. Okay, here's a good question then.
Wisconsin, Purdue, and UCLA. Yeah.
Would you be shocked if they went into PBA and beat Nebraska, which nobody can do? Now,
Yes. Yeah,
wouldn't
that would
that
shock
push
me.
them up the ranking some?
Holy crap! They have how many quad one games in a row? One.
By the way, Philip
They have
just asked if
11.
Harper's playing tonight. I just Googled it and I got no answers so far. I didn't click on any of the articles
It
though.
was just an illness.
Okay.
From what they said, I got in Indiana, and that was what Wednesday, Thursday. So I would imagine if that rings true, that it was just an illness. He should be back.
Good.
I really hope so. But I'm also mad at him that he didn't play the one day I got to go see him play. They play 11 quad one games in a row, dude. That is crazy.
Let's go. They're going to win all 11 of them, and they're going to be number one in the power rankings. He's still counting them up.
11 of their final, or 10 of their final 17 games. I apologize. 13 of their final 17 games are quad one games.
So they have all the opportunities, and a lot of them are at home. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's why I still think that they could climb, but they have to win the games, obviously. But if they don't, they'll be right where they are still, I guess.
That is a crazy schedule left. All right. Well, let's talk Nebraska since you brought Nebraska up. Well, I guess we missed UCLA and Oregon. So you have them all right there. So let's talk about UCLA, Oregon, Nebraska. You have UCLA and Oregon 5 and 6. I give them a little bit more credit. I have them above Purdue, and then we both have Nebraska 7th. What was your thought process with UCLA, Oregon, and Nebraska?
UCLA was tough because I like them a lot. So dropping them that far kind of hurt my feelings, but I just did it because of the loss against Nebraska, basically. And the other teams, I think, having better weeks than them. And then Oregon's simple, like getting blown out at home, like we already talked about against Illinois, you got to drop down. So that one was pretty easy for me to do.
Yeah, I think you get blown out at home. I think just about any drop is justified. Obviously, you're not going to bring them below Nebraska or Indiana. But yeah, I think Oregon getting blown out at home like that was justified. But you have to keep UCLA above Oregon right? I mean, UCLA, even though they lost to Nebraska, they beat Oregon
Hmm.
at Oregon, so you keep them above there. And then I I didn't know what to do with Nebraska because Nebraska beating UCLA was impressive. Nebraska also beat Creighton at Creighton earlier this year, albeit I don't think Creighton is looking to be as good as maybe people thought at the beginning of the year. But at the end of the day, like this Nebraska team at home, it looks to be kind of the same thing that we thought before, right? Like this Nebraska team at home is going to be very good. They're going to dominate, but on the road, they're going to struggle some more. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Nebraska go 10-10 or 11-9 in the Big Ten this season.
That would be crazy because I thought that they were going to be bad this year. And so, like, having them all the way up to 7 this early in the season, for me, I could arguably say that they're the biggest surprise for me in the conference at this point. But like you said, man, that's just a really tough place to win at. If they can win all their home games and then, pick up a couple here and there on the road, then they'll be not only, they're not going to be fighting for a conference title or anything like that, but they'll be fighting to get into the NCAA tournament, which is what you want ultimately at the end of the year, is to get as high of a seed as you can. So, really impressed with them though. Like, I'm surprised that they're doing this well with the roster that they have.
I mean, they don't have Rick Mass. They still have Juwan Gary and they still have Bryce Williams, but you're right. They're not necessarily like national names that can get that recognition. I just
Well,
don't know how they
Bryce was
lost to
like,
St. Mary's.
Bryce last year to me was like a guy that was okay. He might score 20 points in the first half almost, and then just be completely absent the whole second half, or vice versa. So he was so hot and cold that like he was a guy that I didn't feel like I could trust as the main scorer for this team, and he's proven me wrong this year. So again, like I said, just really surprised with what they've been getting from those guys throughout the year. And Connor Sejan's like very similar guy like that. For Wisconsin last year, I was like, okay, he might get really hot, but then he disappears sometimes, and you don't know where he's at. So for those two guys to be like the two leading scorers for this team, I feel like I was really surprised, or I am still really surprised.
Yeah, I mean, like Fred Hoiberg essentially brought in Gavin Griffiths and Connor Sejan, and it felt like he basically brought both of them in and said, "Hey, one of you is going to be our 3-point guy, and you're just going to hit a bunch of shots for us." Gavin Griffith obviously has not panned out that way. He's only played in 9 games so far this season. I'm not aware if that's because of injury or something like that. I apologize. I forgot to look that up beforehand. But Connor Sejan played in 14 games, or all 14 games. He's only started in 3 of them, but he's 12 points per game or 11.6 points per game right now, shooting over 40% from three. So when you have the combination of him and Bryce Williams also shooting over 40% from three this season, that's how you continue to make it without a Kasai Tamanaga, who was a really good shooter all season too last year.
I saw a tweet yesterday about him because I guess there's a new rule that says that there's going to be 5 years of eligibility automatically. And somebody was asking about him, like, can he come back and play one more year at Nebraska? Which would be awesome if he came back next year. He can't
That
though
would
because
be
he's playing
awesome.
pro, but he might
Where did
have
he
he
where did
might
he
have
go to
still
play
been able to
pro?
be there this year though.
Where did Tamanaga go to play pro?
The tweet said it, and I can't remember.
Oh,
Somebody
okay.
replied and said he's playing pro somewhere.
Okay, cool.
I can look it
That's
up
good for him.
if you want me to.
No, it's fine. Not a big deal.
No, I want to now.
Um, okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Um, I think I agree with this. Looks like Philip says looks like the tiered itself is 1 through 7 right now. I still think I'd probably put 1 and 2 maybe above the rest, but yeah, essentially 1 through 7, 8 through 13, and then 17 or 14 through 17, and then you got Minnesota there at the end. I agree with that. I think that's a good that was a good assessment there, Philip. Indiana. Let's talk about Indiana. So
Okay.
Indiana moves up. They beat Rutgers, which didn't have Dylan Harper, so it's a nice win for them. But it was also at home. It's not the most impressive thing in the world. But they go to Penn State, which was really at the Palestra. It was at Penn State, but still at the Palestra. And then okay, Philip says with Tom and August with the Pacers. So okay, that's cool.
That's
I
what I
didn't
just
realize that.
found. He signed a 10-day contract with them, but I think he's in the G League or whatever they call it now.
Okay, that makes sense. So Indiana does that, and then now Indiana, without Malik Renew, has won 2 games in a row. I mean, he started that game against Rutgers, but he played like a minute, and then had his knee hit something. I don't know. and they went from there. What's your thoughts on Indiana?
Impressed that they beat Penn State on the road, especially at the Palestra. Is that how you say that?
I think it's Palestra.
Palestra. Okay. People from Pennsylvania are screaming at me right now that I mispronounced that. Um, that's a tough place to win. Speaking of like road environments that are really impossible to win in, for them to go out there and win that game, very impressive. So that's why I had them way lower last week. I think I had them at like 13 or 14, and I bumped them all the way up just purely based on that win right now. So um, if they can pick up some more road wins, and like we said, figure out some spacing and figure out how to score with Balo on the court, then I think that they could still be like, this is a team I thought was number one coming into the season in the conference. So they for sure have the talent. It's just a matter of if they're going to actually go get those wins, like I've been talking about with every team. So impressive start to the year for them, though. And we'll see if they can continue to build off that throughout the Big Ten conference play.
Yeah, yeah. John just posted the new AP poll. He says Illinois 13, Oregon 15. How is Illinois not top 10?
Haters.
Anyway,
Bunch of
Oregon
haters.
15, Michigan State 16, Purdue 20, UCLA 22, Michigan 24. I think that's right. I don't know who else would be receiving votes. Wisconsin's probably receiving votes. They're probably like 27th, 28th, something like that. But yeah,
I'm surprised they have Oregon ahead of Michigan State still.
yeah,
That's kind
that
of
surprised me
surprising.
too, and by only by one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Yeah, I think when it comes down to Indiana, like the biggest thing right now is if Umar Ballo can give you good 30 minutes of play night in and night out, right? Now he did a really good job playing a good amount of minutes against Rutgers, and then he played the last 5 minutes of being in foul trouble, even when he looked like he was tired and not fouling against Penn State. So if Umar Ballo can do that for you, you're good. Like if you're Indiana, you honestly might be a little bit better. But even if Malik Renew comes back, like I think you see a rotation of Mike Woodson going with only one Umar Ballo and only one Malik Renew on the floor more often. I don't think he's going to play those two guys together because, I mean, like I said, Umar Ballo has shown in these past two games that I think this team looks pretty good when they only have one big man in there.
Yeah, they're just a team that like you go into every single game and you're like, they might go get that. Like yesterday, I was like, there's no way they're going to win this game. Penn State's been playing so good. They're playing at that arena. It's going to be loud. They're going to be a factor. And they go pick up that win, and you're like, okay, I guess I don't have this team figured out yet. So it's a week to week thing with Indiana. Like they might go play their next two games and lose them both, and then we're right back to where we were last week. Like, man, this team just can't figure it out. It's bad coaching, bad shooting, whatever it is. And then we're back to square one with them. So just can't figure them out really. They're a tough team to figure out. Them and Wisconsin for me were the two toughest teams to rank, I think. But like I said, ultimately I just pushed Indiana up way higher because of the impressive win at Penn State.
Yeah, Wisconsin was difficult for me as well. I ended up keeping Wisconsin over Indiana. I felt like that Iowa win, the record 3-point shooting and stuff was really impressive. I mean, they went 21 for 31 from three. Like, it's not like they went out there and just chucked up 45 3-pointers or something like that. Like, they were really efficient with their 3-point shooting as well. So
Wasn't that a record too, or was that just a school record?
that was a school record, I thought, but maybe it
Okay.
was. I think it was a school record for most 3-pointers hit in a home game, something like that. But yeah, no, it was really really cool. So I give Wisconsin credit for not so much beating Iowa as much as they looked impressive in that, and John Blackwell turning into the player that John Blackwell is, because this is what we've talked about with Wisconsin, right? Like they need a guy with that killer instinct to take over and score and be that main guy for Wisconsin. It was John Tonji at the beginning of the year, but then people got the scouting report and they said, "Oh, okay, we can stop this guy." Well, if it can be John Tonji, if it can be John Blackwell, if it could be Max Klesmit, like you just need one of those guys to take over whichever game you're playing. And if you have that night in and night out, you have a much better Wisconsin team.
Yeah. I had a couple back and forth this morning with somebody talking about the Wisconsin ranking, and I admitted I was like, I'm not sure. I probably was a little harsh on them. Maybe I should have had them up a little higher, maybe at like 9 where you have them. And I looked at the teams that were in front of them and I thought, well, maybe they should be, if you're just looking at my rankings right now, maybe ahead of Ohio State that I have at 10. But then I was like, well, Ohio State just beat Kentucky. And I actually didn't give them credit for that last week. So that was something that I actually moved Ohio State up after losing, even though just throughout this week, just because I felt like last week I didn't give them enough credit for the Kentucky win. Now I feel the same way about Wisconsin. Maybe I have them too low, and next week I'll give them a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt. But the other 9 teams that I have besides Ohio State, I still don't know if they're better than any of those teams. And it starts right there at number 9 with Penn State. I don't know if they're better than Penn State. Like tonight will be a really good indicator of that. Like if Wisconsin goes in to Rutgers, like we were just talking about, and controls the game, and they're clearly the better team, then I'll have an easier time saying, okay, this is for sure top 8 team in the conference. But tonight is huge for them, though, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I look at Wisconsin, like part of me does feel like maybe I'm being too harsh on them. Maybe I should have them above Nebraska and Maryland because you really look at it like they lost that 3-game stretch where they played 3 games in 7 days of at home against Michigan and then at Marquette and then at Illinois. I don't I think I docked up more for that Illinois loss than maybe I should have because I think that was around the same time when Illinois uh, lost to Northwestern, maybe? Question mark. Let me check. Yeah, that was right after Illinois had lost to Northwestern at Northwestern. So I was a little bit lower on them then, and then they came out with that Tennessee game where they only lost by 2 against them. So I felt better about them after that. But yeah, I think you and I might just be too low on Wisconsin. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know either. They for sure were the hardest team for me to rank, though. Like I pretty much had everybody like 1 through 17 done, and then I was like, where am I putting Wisconsin? They were literally the last team that I put in, and I was like, I think right behind Ohio State just because of the Kentucky game, but not ahead of any of the other teams though that I had 1 through 9. I didn't feel like they were better than them, but maybe they are though. Like
Yeah.
I said, it was difficult for me to do that. And the next couple of games for them, well, I guess we'll find out in like 2 weeks or by next Tuesday, because tonight's a big one, but then they play at home against Minnesota. That should be an easy win. But then next week they're at home against Ohio State. So that'll be another good indication for where Wisconsin should be.
Let's talk about Ohio State. I don't think Ohio State is a good win.
You don't think they're
I,
what?
I don't think Ohio State's a good win. I know
But
they're quad one.
how did they
Um,
beat Kentucky though?
I think Aaron Bradshaw came back and Kentucky wasn't ready for Aaron Bradshaw to be back, and he was a much better down low presence for him. And Kentucky didn't attack Junie Mobley on offense. Like Junie Mobley on defense is a liability, which he's a freshman, so I get it. But Junie Mobley is also not playing as lights out as he was before earlier in the season. So, with his shooting and stuff like that. Like if I go, let me get his box or his game log really fast. If I go
But they didn't
to
play awful against Michigan State
his
either though.
3-point shooting, so against Michigan State, 2 of 7, Indiana State 1 of 4, Kentucky 1 of 7. Really, the last time he shot well was against Valpo when he was 3 for 6. Like
Who is
he is
this?
not. This is Junie Mobley, the freshman for
Okay.
Ohio State. He is not shooting at the incredible rate that he once was, and he's still playing 20 plus minutes. He only played 24 against Michigan State, but he played 30 plus against Kentucky and 30 plus against Indiana State. One of the reasons why he could play 30 plus against Kentucky is because Kentucky did not attack him defensively. And I felt like they were attacking the wrong players, which I don't
Yeah.
know. That's not like Mark Pope. He's normally had some really good game plans this season, but I just feel like this Ohio State team has weaknesses you can attack, and Diebler will get better in year 2, but he's still learning a lot as a coach right now.
Yeah. The good thing is, like, out of their next like 5 or
Uh-oh.
4
That was
games,
good.
they have the tougher teams that they're playing. Did I lose you?
That was me.
Am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was gonna say out of their next 4 games, uh, they have Oregon and Indiana both at home, so that's helpful. And then the Wisconsin and Minnesota games are both on the road. So I think if they could win 2 of those, you're still saying, all right, this is a team that can be competitive with anybody, though. Like especially if they beat Oregon. on Thursday. Like that'll be a game where it's like if they beat Oregon, Ohio State's back to me because I think really highly of Oregon. I still think they're really good even after the Illinois. I think the Illinois game for Oregon was more of a one-off than like what we're going to get from them going forward. So that'll be a bigger to me. That'll be a bigger game for figuring out what Ohio State actually is, and that'll be Thursday night.
Yeah, Ohio State goes on a 5-game stretch here where they have to win 3 of these 5 games. They go at Minnesota, Oregon, at Wisconsin, Indiana, at Purdue. You can't lose any more than 2 of those games. And even then, you shouldn't lose 2 if you're Ohio State and your net and your Kid Palm rankings are correct, but that's also just kind of what it is. Like Oregon's a good team, so I'm not expecting Ohio State to beat them. Wisconsin, especially at home, is a good team. I'm not expecting Ohio State to beat them. And then at Purdue, nobody's been able to win at Purdue this season, so I'm not expecting them to beat them. Like Ohio State's going to have to pull off an upset here in one of those 3: Oregon, at Wisconsin, at Purdue.
I was gonna say how do you find 3 then? Because to me it would have to be obviously Minnesota tonight, but then it would have to be Indiana at home and then the Oregon game at home as well.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not confident they'll beat Oregon. So I
It'd be a
don't
good
know.
one.
I don't know where the 3 are going to come from. I know where 2 of the 3 should come from, but I'm also not super confident they beat Indiana.
Right.
I have Indiana above in my power rankings right now.
Yeah. It's a tough like anybody, it's so funny though, because like you look at anybody's schedule like for the next 2 months and you're just like, man, this is brutal. Brutal schedule. Like everybody's just so good. I think everybody's good. Nationally, people will say the SEC is still better, which maybe they are, but you just look through the schedule and it's just like Wisconsin on the road, Purdue on the road, Penn State on the road, Illinois on the road. That's in the next month for them. That's brutal.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah, there's some brutal schedules in the Big Ten, man.
It's really tough.
It's tough. Rutgers chief among them. 13 of their next 17 games.
Crazy.
Quad 1.
That's crazy.
That's wild. All right. I don't know how much there is to talk about there at the bottom. Iowa, Northwestern, Washington, Rutgers, USC, Minnesota. If you want to give us your take on Maryland and why they're so low, you can. But I don't know if I have much more to say about the bottom other than maybe talk about Maryland for a second.
I mean, I put them that I kind of already explained it, but I think Washington stinks so much that I think that Washington's so bad that I think that.
Again, Kent.
Oh, did I?
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Uh-oh. All right. There you are.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that I think Washington's so bad that losing to them anywhere warrants dropping 10 ranking points at least. And they weren't even at number 5. So getting down to 15, I feel like I was nice to them. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm actually questioning why you put Washington up so high because that's the only win that they have. Am I losing you again? Oh, everyone else can hear me, especially Russ. Hey, Russ. Hey, Philip. When he comes back, I'm going to ask him once again why he has Washington up at 15. He's figuring it out. I believe in him. He's going to unplug something. This is great podcasting right now.
I think I'm better. I think I can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, we're good.
All right. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Give me Maryland, the quick version of Maryland of what you just said.
I feel like everyone in the comments heard me say it 3 times now, but I'll say it again. Losing to Washington, you can't do it ever. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
Washington stinks. Yeah. I almost put Washington back at 18. I think they're that bad. Even with the win, I don't care. I mean, so I feel like I was being
Washington
nice to Maryland.
Did give Illinois a good game though. Like, do you not attribute that to anything Washington did well?
Nope. I think they're bad.
Okay.
I think that was their last win of the year.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think Washington's improving. I think Washington's getting better. I think Danny Sprinkle's a good coach.
All right, how many games does Washington have left?
How many games do they have left?
Yeah, I'll make a deal with anybody in the comments or you, JR. Every time Washington loses, you have to give me $2. And every time they win, I'll give you $8.
I mean, I don't like that. I'm not saying Washington's gonna win a bunch of games, but I think they can win possibly at Minnesota. I think they could beat Rutgers. I think at USC maybe. I don't know. They lost. USC blew them out earlier this year. I don't know. I think that Danny Sprinkle's getting them better. I think they're gonna be
We'll
better.
see.
But
We'll
yeah,
see.
it's probably not gonna win.
I gave up on them in December.
Yeah, yeah, I know you did. All right. Let's
What
see.
was? Oh, I was about to ask you about. I guess I was just gonna ask you about why you had Washington at 15, but you kind of just explained that.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it on a Locked On Illini last night with Sonny. I guess my quick version is like Danny Sprinkles changed things. I think they're using Great Ossipor in a better way, and I think that Zoom Diallo has become more defined in his role on this team, and also DJ Davis being able to shoot. Illinois fans know that he did rather well against Illinois. DJ Davis and his shooting makes things better too, but defensively they're still, not doing great. But I like the changes that Danny Sprinkles made, so I'm not gonna put them on the same level with Minnesota. I think they're better than that.
Okay, Philip just said Washington goes to Minnesota this year. Minnesota will win that game.
Yeah, they go to Minnesota on February 1st.
I can't wait. Can't wait. Parker Fox
What will you
dropping
do if
20.
Washington beats? What will you do if Washington beats Michigan
I'm sorry, what?
at Michigan?
That won't
They play
happen.
at Michigan on Sunday.
That
What will
will
you
not
do
happen.
if Washington wins that game?
What will I do if they win that game? Okay, well, what do I get if Michigan wins? That's where we start, and then I'll make my punishment based on that.
I mean, you're just so confident they're gonna win. You shouldn't have to get anything.
Okay. I see. I made that bet before though, and it cost me $170. I had to buy a Luke Altmaier jersey. Remember? So I don't want to. I don't want to be in that boat again.
Well, I won't make it cost you $170.
All right. I will buy a. I will buy a Husky canvas on Etsy, like a picture of a Husky, and I'll put it right. Where's it at? I'll put it right there, right there, for the next
Prominently
show,
display it. Okay, that's good
or
with
as
me.
soon as I
That's
get
good
it,
with me.
however long it takes to ship.
That's good with me. So,
Okay.
Kent, I'm starting to lose you again. So I think it's best if we just end this podcast now
Sounds good.
before I keep losing you. So,
Sounds good.
all right, everybody. Thanks for watching the Big Ten Huddle Power Rankings episode for basketball. We'll be back. Zach won't be here Tuesday. I will try to be back even if I'm by myself tomorrow night. But I'll try to find somebody else possibly to be there too. So we'll be back Tuesday, and then we'll have a recap and everything for the Ohio State and the Penn State game. So we'll see you later. Have a good one.